Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Daled of Masechta Ayruvin. So, spending Shabbos on a dovecote with an ayruv that is greater than 10 tefachim tall. No, wait, actually that should probably be lower than 10 tefachim tall. Yeah, let's go with lower than 10 tefachim tall. Okay? So, spending Shabbos on a dovecote with an ayruv that's lower than 10 tefachim. Alright. Putting an ayruv on a reed. Can you put your ayruv on a reed? I don't know. Stick around and you can find out, I guess. An ayruv in a closet of bricks that are, but you lost the key. That's kind of the important part. So you have an ayruv in a closet, you lost the key. So does it count as an ayruv? After all, how are you going to get in? Chevra, we're on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, 4 lines into the page. Eisvei, we have a kasha. What was the last thing we said? That Rabbi Yirmiyah's opinion was that if you have a basket, and in the basket is your ayruv, and now the basket is above 10 tefachim, so it's ki'ilu in rishus hayachid. Now, Rabbi Yirmiyah says that you can pull it down to within 10 tefachim, and now problem solved. And now it's a good ayruv. So now the Gemara asks the kasha on Rabbi Yirmiyah, Eisvei. If a person was intending to spend Shabbos in Rishus Harabim v'nei ayruv b'kotel, and he put his ayruv on the wall, l'matam esar tefachim, and it was within 10 tefachim of the ground, ayruv o ayruv, it's a good ayruv, right? Because he's in Rishus Harabim, his ayruv is in Rishus Harabim, all good. L'malam yud tefachim, ein ayruv o ayruv, if the ayruv is above 10 tefachim, so then it is not a good ayruv, because his ayruv is in Rishus HaYachid and he's in Rishus HaRabim. If he intended to spend Shabbos on top of a dovecote, or b'rosh hamigdal, or on top of some kind of a closet. Okay, look, now this closet is tall. It's basically its own Rishus HaYachid. It is 10 tefachim tall. It is 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. That is where you're spending Shabbos. Fine. So in this case, if the ayruv is on the wall above 10 tefachim, it's a good ayruv because he and his ayruv are both in Rishus HaYachid. But if the ayruv is below 10 tefachim, then it's not a good ayruv because the ayruv is in Rishus HaRabim, he's in Rishus HaYachid. Ve'amai, how come? What's the problem? Even if the ayruv is below 10 tefachim, what should be the problem? Hachinami nema. Right, let's make Rabbi Yirmiyah's argument, just like he says by the basket, you could, kind of tilt it into or pull it down into 10 tefachim. So here also, you could take this closet or this dovecote and you could tilt it so that the top of it is now within 10 tefachim of the ground, in which case you'll be in Rishus the closet will be within Rishus HaRabim, the ayruv will be within Rishus HaRabim. So what is the big deal? Rabbi Yirmiyah says, theoretically you could do that. Theoretically you could tilt the closet so it's within 10 tefachim just like the ayruv. But there's a problem. In this particular case, the closet was nailed to the wall. So you couldn't do it and you just stuck with what you got, which is the dovecote or the closet is 10 tefachim by 10 tefachim. It's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. It is a Rishus HaYachid. And the ayruv is in Rishus HaRabim, the thing is nailed into the wall. There's nothing you can do to change this, and therefore it's not a good ayruv. Fine. Rava Amar, Rava says, I can even make the argument that the closet is not nailed to the wall. Alright, well then why don't I tilt it? The thing here is that the closet is very long, and therefore the mamtile purta azuchutz la'arba, that if you were to tilt the closet so that the top of it will be within 10 tefachim of the ground, well, it will also be more than 4 amas away from the ayruv. Alright? And therefore it would be a problem to carry the food from where it is on the wall to where the top of the closet is, where you're spending Shabbos, because it's long, so therefore it's more than 4 amas away. Okay, there are other questions about what about if you just kind of like move it 4 amas by 4 amas, 4 amas at a time, whatever. But that's what Rava says. that it's too tall, and therefore you'll be too far away if you tilt it. Now, hey chidami, we have a question about this closet. Idika kavso masna, laise bekavso masna, delesle kavso masna. Now the Gemara has one more detail, which is 1 second. If theoretically this closet, there was like a window in it, and by way of the window, you could put a rope through the window and then tie it on one end to the food. And then if you have a rope that you're holding on one end and it's tied to the other end on the food, well, technically speaking, it would be considered like it's with you in Rishus HaYachid. It would only be an issue midrabanan, and therefore ein shvus ben hashmashos. So then it should be acceptable. So my answer is, well, it's not talking about where you have a rope that's tied to the food through a window that you're holding onto on top of a closet. Okay. So if your ayruv is in a pit, well, even if the pit is 100 amos deep, it is still a good ayruv. So, hi bor, dekai hecha. The Gemara says, what is the deal with this pit? I don't understand. Ilema dekai b'shus hayachid pshita. B'shus hayachid ola ad l'rakia. V'chayechid desalka le'el. Hachinami denachta desata. Let's read that again. So, if we're talking about where the pit is in Rishus HaYachid, okay? Let's say, your backyard or something, okay? I don't know, some Rishus HaYachid. And the ayruv is in this Rishus HaYachid. Or it doesn't have to be your backyard. I don't know, you're in the middle of the two cities, 2,000 amos away. You make your ayruv tchumen. Now there's, I don't know, maybe over there's like some kind of, enclosed area. Maybe they made it so as a designated place for people to make the ayrovs. I don't know. Whatever it might be. So, there's some Rishus HaYachid there. And in that Rishus HaYachid, there's a really deep pit. But the fact of the matter is, you're in Rishus HaYachid, the pit is a Rishus HaYachid. It's all just Rishus HaYachids. So, that should be okay. It sounds like they're owned by two different people. So if it's in Rishus HaYachid, so Pshita obviously would be a good ayruv. Why do I need the Mishnah to tell me that it's a good ayruv? Rishus HaYachid ola ad l'rakia. We know that Rishus HaYachid extends upwards indefinitely. So v'chayechid desalka le'el, just like it goes up indefinitely, hachinami denachta desata, well, it also goes down indefinitely. So therefore, you have Rishus HaYachid, and it's going down into the pit indefinitely, and therefore it's all just one Rishus HaYachid. V'el dekai b'Rishus HaRabim. Okay, so let's say that the pit is in a Rishus HaRabim. Then it's Gavin Lishbosecha. But if the pit is in Rishus HaRabim, well, where is he planning to spend Shabbos? If he's intending to spend Shabbos in Rishus HaRabim, well, obviously it's going to be a problem because the pit is a Rishus HaYachid, right? It's 10 tefachim by 10 tefachim. No, it's 10 tefachim deep, 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. So the pit is Rishus HaYachid. He's in Rishus HaRabim. Obviously, that's not going to work. Ilamata, and if he's spending Shabbos in the pit, well, Pshita, obviously, it will work. Huveiruv makom echad. He is spending Shabbos with his ayruv. Of course, that'll be a good ayruv. Lo tzricha dekai b'karmelis. So the chiddush of the Mishnah is that it's talking about a pit that is even 100 amos deep, but it is in a karmelis. Now, karmelis, of course, is a rishus derabanan. We don't transfer from a karmelis to a Rishus HaYachid or to a Rishus HaRabim. We don't carry in a karmelis, right? We treat it as its own rishus, but at the end of the day, it's midirabanan. So, and he intended to have Shabbos, to make Shabbos in the karmelis, and his ayruv is in this Rishus HaYachid pit. Now, this is according to Rebbe, the Amar, Kol davar shu mishum shvus lo gazu alav ben hashmashos. Rebbe says that anything that's a shvus, what would be the shvus here? Transferring from the pit, which is a Rishus HaYachid, to where he's spending Shabbos up top in the karmelis. And now on Shabbos you can't carry between the two. However, during ben hashmashos, where it's only also because of a shvus, it would be acceptable according to Rebbe, and therefore at that point you would be able to take your ayruv from the pit to where you are in the karmelis, and therefore it is an acceptable ayruv. That is what the Mishnah is saying. New Mishnah. Nesana brosha kone. If you take your ayruv food and you put it on top of a reed, or brosha kundas, or on top of a pole, if you had already separated this reed from the ground and then put it back in the ground, even if the reed is 100 amas tall, it is still a good ayruv. Okay, and it's talking about where the bottom of it is not 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim, and therefore it's not considered a Rishus HaYachid. Okay? Okay, so we say that if you have this reed and okay, so if you have this reed and it's already been pulled out of the ground, so it's like not like a tree that's like connected to the ground, so it's been pulled out of the ground, you put it back in the ground, so we say that you're allowed to use it as an ayruv. Okay, Seder. Okay, says the Gemara, Ramile Rav Ada Bar Masna l'Rava. So Rav Ada Bar Masna asked Rava, 1 second, Talush v'notes in, lo talush lo talush v'notes lo. So Rav Ada Bar Masna asks Rava, 1 second. Our Mishnah says that specifically you can make an ayruv on this reed because it's already been pulled out of the ground, which implies that if it wasn't yet pulled out of the ground, so then you would be unable to use it as an ayruv. Why, if it was never pulled out of the ground, i.e. if it's still connected to the ground, was never harvested or whatever, so you wouldn't be allowed to use it as an ayruv. Why not? Money, who's that? Rabbanan he. That sounds like it's the rabbis, that anything that's a shvus, it's an issue ben hashmashos, meaning, if this reed is still connected to the ground, okay, so then it's basically considered like a tree. Now, Rebbe had said that, there's no problem making an ayruv in a tree, because the only issue would be that you can't use a tree on Shabbos. But during Ben Hashmashos, it would be okay, because there's no shvus Ben Hashmashos. Now, if we're saying that you're only allowed to use this reed when it's pulled out of the ground, that implies that if it's still connected to the ground, you wouldn't be able to use it. Well, that doesn't sound like Rebbe's opinion, that sounds like the rabbi's opinions. Right? V'amar Reisha, Rebbe. But we were saying that the previous Mishnah, which was talking about trees, is Rebbe. Reisha Rebbe b'sefer Rabbanan. The Reisha, where we say that you're allowed to make an ayruv in a tree, as long as it's within 10 tefachim. So, and that whole discussion over there. But we said that was Rebbe. We said that the only issue would be using the tree. And using the tree during Ben Hashmashos is okay. But now we're saying that you can only make an ayruv in this reed if it's detached from the ground. Because if it was attached from the ground, it would be an issue because you'd be using a tree. That's the rabbis. How could it possibly be that the Reisha is the rabbis, that the previous Mishnah is Rebbe and this Mishnah is the rabbis? We have to be consistent. So Amalei, so Rava answered Rav Ada Bar Masna, and he said, Kvar Rami Bar Chama Rav Chizda. Rami Bar Chama already asked this question to Rav Chizda. V'shani le Reisha Rebbe v'sefer Rabbanan. Rav Chizda answered Rami Bar Chama that the truth is, as crazy as it might be, in this case, the first Mishnah was Rebbe and this Mishnah is the rabbis. It's two different opinions over here. Okay? Ravina Amar Kula Rebbe, whereas Ravina disagrees, and he says, no, the entire thing is Rebbe. Just like the previous Mishnah was Rebbe, this Mishnah is also Rebbe. Well, if that's the case, then when this reed is attached to the ground, how come you'd be unable to put an ayruv there? So, we're concerned that in the case of a reed, it's much easier, it's much more likely, it's so likely that I guess it wouldn't even be a davar she'eino muskavin. It sounds like right over here when it comes to the reed, even Rebbe would say that you'd be unable to make the ayruv on a reed that's attached to the ground because you're certainly going to come to break the reed, and that would be an issue of, harvesting, kotzer? Okay, fine. There were soldiers that came to Narda. Okay. Amr Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman who lived in Narda, so he said to the students, Poko, go out, avidu kavushe kavshe ba'agma. Go out and prepare for us, right, because the city was so packed with soldiers. Rav Nachman instructed his students, go out and prepare us a place to sit tomorrow on Shabbos. Right, go to where the reeds are, flatten down the reeds, make us a place to sit. It won't be muksa anymore, and it'll be fine, and we can sit there. And tomorrow we'll go and we'll sit there and learn. Now the thing is that these reeds were still connected to the ground. So interestingly, Rav Nachman doesn't have an issue with the fact, have an issue with using these reeds that are connected to the ground. So Ezvi Rami Bar Chama Rav Nachman. So Rami Bar Chama asked Rav Nachman, V'amila Rav Ukva Bar Abba Rav Nachman. Some say it was Taka Rav Ukva Bar Abba. Asked Rav Nachman, Talush v'no it's in, lo talush v'lo no it's lo. Our Mishnah says that if you have a reed that is separate from the ground, you can use it for an ayruv. If it's still connected to the ground, you can't. So therefore, over here we have these reeds where we're planning to learn tomorrow, but they're still connected to the ground. How could we possibly go and learn there? So Rav Nachman answered, our Mishnah that says that you would be unable to make an ayruv on a reed that's still connected to the ground, that is talking about a reed that is hard. And because it's hard, it will likely break. However, when it comes to where we're going to sit, they are softer reeds and they're not going to break, and that's why it would be acceptable. And how do we know that we differentiate between hard reeds and soft reeds? The Tanya is we learn in the Brayso Akanin reeds, ve'atadin ve'ahigin, and also atads and higins. Min ilan hein, they are types of trees. Beinun kilayim b'karim, and therefore they are not kilayim in a karim, because we know that kilei karim is for greens and grains, is for vegetables as well as for grains, but not for trees. V'tani idach, but we have another brayso that says akanim, the reeds, ve'akidan, ve'urbanin, as well as kasha and osiers. Alright? Min yarakain, they are types of vegetables. Vein kilayim b'karim, and they are kilayim and karim because they're vegetables. So one second, the first brayso said that reeds are considered trees. The second brayso said that reeds are considered vegetables. Make up your mind, braysos. So kasha adade, they are problematic, they contradict each other. Elishmamina, rather we learn from here, kan b'ozradin, kan b'shein ozradin, shmamina. So it must be that they're considered trees when they're hard, and they're considered vegetables when they're soft. Alright, fine. V'kida min yeriku. One second, is kida, what did we say kida was? Kasha, are they really types of vegetables? Ve'atnan, we learn in a Mishnah, ein markivin pegam al gabe kida, we don't mix rue together with kasha. Levanam p'neishu yerik bilam, because the rue is considered vegetables, and planting it together with kasha would be planting vegetables together with trees. So it looks like these kasha are considered trees, not vegetables. Amar Papa kida lechud v'kida levana lechud. So Papa says no. The first brayso was talking about kida. This is talking about kida levana. Those are two separate things. Kida is a tree. Kida levana is kida is a vegetable. Kida levana is a tree. All right. Nisan of the migdal. If you put your ayruv in some kind of a closet, and you lost the key, how is the ayruv? Nonetheless, it's a good ayruv. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, says Rabbi Eliezer, if he doesn't know where the key is, well then it's not a good ayruv. Alright? Says the Gemara, Ve'amai, how come this ayruv is a good ayruv? Right? The Tanakama says that if you have an ayruv in some kind of a closet and you lost the key to the closet, so you essentially can't get to the ayruv to eat it because it's locked. So why is that an acceptable ayruv? You can't actually eat it. So he and his ayruv are in two separate places. They can't get to one another. So Rav and Shmuel both say that here we're talking about a closet that is made out of bricks. Reb Mary, and it's Reb Mary's opinion, who says that you're allowed to break down the bricks, milchatchila. You could totally just break down the bricks and then take out the contents, i.e. take out the ayruv in this case. Ditznan, as we learned in the Mishnah, if you have some kind of a house that's filled with fruits, sasum, and yet it is completely closed. So you have a house filled with fruits, so you can't get to the fruits because it's completely sealed. Benifchas, but then the bricks they got a breach in the wall. So then you're allowed to remove fruits by way of this breach in the wall that occurred. Now you wouldn't be able to do this milichatchila, but if the breach happened on its own, you'd be allowed to extract the fruits from the house. Reb Meir Omer says, Reb Meir poches v'notel lichatchila. Whereas Reb Meir says, you can actually break down the wall milichatchila and extract the fruits from the house. So you're also, just like Reb Meir says, by this house full of fruits that you could break the wall and take out the fruits. So here also, you can break the closet and take out the ayruv. Okay, fine. But Amar Rav Nachman bar Ada Amar Shmuel. But Rav Nachman bar Ada said in the name of Shmuel, Ba'avir delivne. So one second, but didn't Rav Nachman bar Ada say in the name of Shmuel that was specifically by the house with the fruits? That was specifically talking about when the there was no cement between the bricks. So you're basically just like removing bricks very easily without any cement that weren't cemented together. So you're basically just removing some bricks. So here also we're talking about a box that was a closet that was made with bricks that weren't cemented to each other, and that's why you're allowed to open up this box to get to the ayruv. One second, didn't Reb Zera say that was specifically talking about on Yom Tif, where you're allowed to open up the house to get the fruits? So okay, so here we're talking about where it's Yom Tif as well. So you have a box and it's Yom Tif, you have an ayruv in the box, you lost the key. How are you going to get it? Well, just remove the bricks and get to the ayruv, because it's Yom Tif and the bricks aren't cemented to each other or anything like that. Okay, but if that's the case, is this what Rabbi Eliezer taught? Is this what we taught in the Brisa? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, im ba'ir avad ayruv vim basada avad ayruv ayruv. That Rabbi Eliezer says that if the key got lost in the city, well then it's a good ayruv. But if the key got lost in a field, well then it is not a good ayruv. Now if this is Yom Tif, if we are in fact talking about Yom Tif, well then what's the difference if the key got lost in the city or if the key got lost in the field? Either way, you'd be able to carry this key. If you found it, you'd be able to carry this key in order to get your ayruv, because I guess it's probably for a tzorech ochel nefesh, so you'd be allowed to carry it. So if that's the case, then what's the nafkamina between the city and the field if it was Yom Tif? So the Gemara answers, we have to basically add a few words and kind of clarify a few things over here. So if you have your ayruv, and the ayruv is in some kind of a closet, and you locked the closet and then you lost the key, alright? So ayruv, it is a good ayruv. But when is it a good ayruv? B'Yom Tif. It's a good ayruv if it's Yom Tif. Because, whether it's because you could just, if it's made out of bricks without any cement or anything, so you can just kind of like take down the bricks, take out your ayruv, and eat it, no big deal. Fine. But if it's Shabbos, well then you wouldn't be able to dismantle the closet in order to extract the ayruv. Fine. Nimtza amafteach. What if the key was then found? So bein ba'ir, bein basada, ayruv ayruv. So according to Tanna Kama, it makes no difference. Whether you found the key in the city, whether you found the key in the field, it makes no difference. It's still not a good ayruv because you have no way to transport it from where you found it to where your ayruv is. Rabbi Eliezer Omer says, Rabbi Eliezer, actually, ba'ir ayruv ayruv, basada ayruv ayruv. If it's in the city, then it would still be a good. If you found the key in the city, then the ayruv would be good. If you found the key in the field, then the ayruv would not be good. But ayruv Reb Shimon the Amar echad gagos ve'echad chatzeres ve'echad kapefes v'shusa achasei in the kelim sheshavsu b'sochan. So if he found the key in the city, so then his ayruv would be good, because Rabbi Eliezer is expressing the opinion that we've seen attributed to Reb Shimon, which is that you're allowed to move things by way of roofs and karpafs and chatzers. So therefore, if you found the key in the city, says Rabbi Eliezer, it's no problem, because you could just transport it to where the ayruv is. However, basada ayruv ayruv k'rabanan. But if you found the key in the field, so then it wouldn't be a good ayruv, like the rabbis whose opinion is that in the field you'd be unable to transport it anywhere, even if it's like a mitzvah or whatever. Apparently it's machlokas later on in terms of if you find tefillin. Alright, that was daf lamed daled of Masechta Ayruvin. So we started talking about spending Shabbos on a dovecote, which is a rishus hayachid, that's 10 tefachim tall and 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. And your ayruv is less than 10 tefachim from the ground. So your ayruv is in rishus harab, you're in rishus hayachid. Rabbi Yirmiyah says that, well, if the dovecote or the closet is nailed to the wall where the ayruv is, well then yeah, you're kind of stuck because you're in two different rishuses. But if you can kind of tilt it, then says Rabbi Yirmiyah, I don't see why it should be a problem if you can tilt the closet and be in the same rishus as your ayruv. Rava says that it's talking about where the so Rava says, look, if the closet is too tall, so that even if after you tilt it, it'll be more than 4 amos away, it's going to be a problem. But if it'll be within 4 amos, then it should be acceptable. Talk about putting an ayruv on a reed. So so the thing is, the Mishnah said that if the reed is connected to the ground, so then it wouldn't be an acceptable ayruv. The question is, why not? What are we concerned about playing with the tree? I know we said that the first, up until now we didn't have an issue with playing with trees because we were going like Rebbe. Why all of a sudden are we having issues with trees? So it says Rav and Rav Chizda, while the beginning was Rebbe, this part about the reeds is actually the Rabbanan who say that there is a problem with Shvos during Ben Hashmashos, and therefore during Ben Hashmashos you'd be unable to, when the ayruv kicks in, you'd be unable to take the food from this reed. Ravina says actually you could say that both of them are Rebbe's opinion, which is that when it comes to reed, you are necessarily going to break it, and it'll be an issue of kotzer. So therefore you can't. Even Rebbe, who says you can use trees, he says you'd be unable to use this reed. We talked about when you have an ayruv in a closet, and you lose the key. So we say, well, if the closet is made out of bricks that are not cemented to each other, and we're talking about your ayruv on Yom Tiv, well, then you can just kind of dismantle the bricks and take out your ayruv. However, if it's Shabbos, it's more complicated because you can't dismantle the bricks and take out the ayruv, and therefore, according to Tanna Kamma, you'd be unable to use this ayruv. According to Rabbi Eliezer, there's actually a little bit of an afkamina, which is that if you find it in the city, if you find the key in the city, well, then you would be able to use the ayruv would be good because you could transfer the key to where the ayruv is and open up the box by way of roofs and karpafs and chutzers. However, Rabbi Eliezer concedes that if the key was found in the field, there would be nothing that he could do. The ayruv wouldn't be a good ayruv because he can't transport the key to where the ayruv is. Alright, Cheva, have a great day. Peace.